So if you really find it is difficult for you to see, you can come. There are a lot of seats in front, because I think center one doesn't have the glow, but left and right seems. Yeah, it will be little better, but not much. So I invite Dr. Mewa Singh, who was a professor at University of Mysore, and very long career of, because we both are monkey guys, we know each other from very long time, and he's a very famous person and one of his kind in this community of behavioral science in primates. And I would invite him for emergence of novel foraging skills in monkeys inhabiting human-dominated landscape. Please, Dr. Mewa Singh. कैसे करते हैं सर अलर्ट? अच्छा, हाथ खड़ा, ठीक है, नहीं नहीं ओके, आई विल सिट। नहीं, खड़े हो जाऊंगा, ही विल अंडरस्टैंड।
चल रहा है ना? हाँ, ओके ओके। फर्स्ट ऑफ ऑल, thanks to INSA and the convener of the sectional committee for selecting me to give this talk. It's always a pleasure to speak to such learned audience. Let me just start with, okay, very recently in a very eminent journal called Trends in Ecology and Evolution, there was an article published a couple of weeks ago, and just a few lines of this article, I like this article very much. It says, plasticity-led evolution is central to evolutionary theory. Okay, we document abundant evidence of plastic behavioral changes in urban animals, including learning, contextual, developmental, and transgenerational plasticities, to incorporate behavioral plasticity more frequently, formally, into urban evolutionary research. Now, what these people are trying to tell is the emergence of a very new discipline, so-called new discipline, which started just a couple of years ago, and that is called urban ecology. Now, urban ecology, the main emphasis is to study behavior and even physiology, and even some people are doing the work on genetics now, on the animal species which have started living in urban environments, whether urban environment has affected physiology, behavior, etc. of animals, because the animals are living in close contact with humans. So, in the past 5 to 7 years, there has been publication of a spate of books. You know, these are all published in 5 years. Urban ecology, urban ecology, urban ecology, etc. And 2 journals which have come now devoted, Journal of Urban Ecology and Urban Landscapes. So you can understand the prominence of this subject is taking, you know, in the last 5-6 years. But I want to take you back 60 years and talk about an unsung hero, as usual, our own. I mean, a great kind of research you would notice, which was initiated in 1960s by a professor, usually called SD, Professor Shivdan Singh. Professor Shivdan Singh was a psychology professor at Punjab University, Chandigarh. He used to go to Shivalik's forest near Chandigarh, study monkeys, and used to go to Aligarh city and watch monkeys and study the behavioral differences. And then he started trapping these monkeys, started bringing them to laboratory in Punjab University, and started doing some kind of experimental work. And he published a series of articles in very eminent journals those days in 1960s. You know, the reaction to novel situations, visual curiosity, social interactions, etc. And these articles, these research papers became so popular that time that none other than Scientific American solicited. They requested Professor S.D. Singh to contribute an article, a summary article of his work, and this article was published by Professor S.D. Singh in 1969. The whole halla gulla of urban ecology today, the title of this article was Urban Monkeys, and the subtitle was very interesting. In India, rhesus monkeys have shared cities with man for centuries. Has this urban way of life affected their behavior and their ability to solve problems? Now, just to put the entire work of Professor S.D. Singh just in one slide, now he showed that the urban monkeys were far more active, and they manipulated objects which had far more, you know, stimulus complexity than the forest monkeys. And urban monkeys were far more aggressive. He used to put the monkeys together, one urban monkey, one forest monkey, in a large cage, put the food in the middle. The forest monkey, like a shy tribal, he would sit in the corner, the urban monkey would grab the whole thing. So they were different in many things, but they did not differ in their basic problem-solving capabilities. And S.D. Singh concluded his article, whereas the selection pressures of an urban environment have shaped many new adaptive patterns in urban monkeys, the basic intelligence does not seem to be affected. Now this was in 1960s in Punjab University. Professor S.D. Singh then shifted to Meerut University. It was called Meerut, now Chaudhry Charan Singh University. He established a big primate lab. The work on monkeys in the laboratory, but he also started a field station in Shivalik Hills, what is today known as Rajaji National Park near Dehradun, where natural work as well as semi-experimental work was done in the forests on the forest living monkeys. And I passed my degree from Chandigarh in 1973, and I joined Professor S.D. Singh in 1973, and I went to work in Shivalik Hills in the lower Himalayas. So 1973-74, I worked with Professor S.D. Singh. And then I got more interested in Western Ghats. I went to Mysore, where I have been since 1975. But for the next 35 years, I was studying only animals in their wild habitats. All work in natural habitats on monkeys, on elephants, on carnivores, and so on. But about 10 years ago, some of my students again got interested in some kind of semi-experimental work. And what to do, what kind of work to do, I would come to that very, very quickly. But just to say, some animal species are obligatory forest dwellers like tigers. Some animal species have become obligatory, human dwellers like, for example, house sparrow. But there are some species, like some species of monkeys. Some of them, the same species animals live in the jungle, but they have also become commensal, and meaning living with human beings. And our long-term studies have shown some fantastic difference between urban monkeys and forest monkeys, the same species. Now, just to give you one example, the forest monkeys, even if it is a small group of 10 to 15 monkeys, in the evening, they sleep dispersed and sleep in different trees. The urban monkeys, even if there are 50 monkeys, all of them would come to one tree and sleep in one tree, always. But in the morning, the forest monkeys from different trees, they make a lot of calls, they all get together and move as a unit in the forest for foraging. The urban monkeys, they all sleep in one tree, but in the morning, they all disperse in different directions because the kind of food they have to get, pick up from some BD shop or pick up from somewhere, they don't even have visual and auditory contact with each other, fantastic adaptations to their environments. So what we tried to study was, see, what is important in animal's life is how to get food every day. Unlike us, we have stored food, we go to the hotel, everything is ready. The first thing in the morning the animal has to think is how to get today's food. So if we want to study the impact of, like, for example, urban environment, the best thing to study will be their foraging behavior, how they acquire food. Because animals in urban areas, number one, they live in a very hostile environment. In our language, they have to live on stealing food. Poor fellows are not stealing, they are just trying to get something to eat. But in our language, they are stealing food. And such items, what is important now, what I want to concentrate in my talk, in that forest areas, very few food items require extraction and processing. They just fruits are available, leaves are available, many of them are consumed as they are. But the urban monkeys are exposed to food items which are given by people. They are concealed, they are encased. So in the process, they have to extract the food. And some of the foods, like some of the cooked food, for example, require some kind of processing. So two processes which forest monkeys normally do not have to undergo, that is extraction and processing. So many of the food items in urban areas require extraction and processing. So we started concentrating on food extraction and food processing. Now I would talk about two species of monkeys. We have worked on several species of animals, including several species of monkeys. This is the work in the very remote islands, Nicobar Islands. We have one subspecies of monkeys living only in 3 islands, not even in main Andaman, in Great Nicobar, in Little Nicobar and Kachal. And we have work going on for the past 15 years. These monkeys are, some of the groups I would show, are quite dependent on coconut. So you can imagine how difficult it is. Suppose you give us a coconut with bare hands. I give you no tools. Tell you, you get the tender coconut water to drink or the edible part. Imagine how to do with your bare hands, and that's what the monkeys have to do. So now what we studied in there, we have a very fantastic situation in Nicobar Islands. For hundreds of years, some of the tribes there, like Shompen, for example, they have been cultivating coconut in the coastal areas. So a few monkey groups are used to coconuts for a long time. Then in 1960s, Government of India had this plan, Punjabis, Tamilians and Bengalis, and a lot of them have been resettled, especially the ex-army people in Great Nicobar. They started more cultivation of coconut. It's the only thing which is cultivated in Nicobar Islands. So some more areas were opened up and some more groups of monkeys became used to coconuts. And then in 2004, that massive tsunami, it destroyed a lot of natural habitats. So some of the forest monkeys also have started visiting coconuts, but some of the monkey groups never come out of the forest. So I have a whole gradient of situations now there. The monkey groups which have been exposed to coconuts for a long time, then for the past 60 years or so, then for the past 10, 15 years, and some which do not see the coconuts at all. And so we did some familiarity experiment. Now here, this one has no light. Okay, here is some group, there is group 1 for example. This is a town group which is exposed to coconuts. There is a group 2 there which comes from the forest occasionally and visits coconut gardens. These 3 groups are forest living groups. So in the evening when they go towards sleeping trees, we offered them coconut along with some other fruits. The 2 forest monkeys, they simply ignored. They didn't even look at the coconut. It was ripe and unripe coconut. They didn't even look at coconuts. The one group which occasionally visits coconut didn't bother to pick up this. You know how difficult it will be to open it. It picked up only the ripe one. And the urban monkey, it first picked up one here, one here. It just ran, picking both of these. So this was just a familiarity experiment. And then we found several interesting behaviors in this. In the urban monkeys, the forest monkeys simply don't bother. Now these are some very interesting slides. Look at the behaviors which have developed in the urban monkeys. Okay, now this requires extraction of food. Now these monkeys, the forest monkeys would never be able to do any kind of these things. The urban monkeys have developed this behavior of what we call pounding coconut. And then sometimes these coconuts have some thorns or mud around it. Now they have learned a behavior what in human language we call tool juice. And what they do, they pick up some leaves or twigs, some branches, they wrap it around. Look here, a typical tool juice behavior, taking an external object for a different juice. Okay, now they wrap it around so that they can just process the coconut. And not only this, they even modify and make tools. You can see various stages. The monkey goes and plucks the branch, okay, and skins it, removes the leaves, takes it around the coconut. Look here, very neatly the way we would do. Sit there and wrap it around the coconut. So what we have called modification and tool using or tool making. And one thing which we saw was fantastic in these animals was making use of a variety of objects. Thin wires, they would pick up a piece of cloth and take a thread, or thin bird feathers for what? Flossing, teeth cleaning. Okay, this was a very unique behavior. Look at this monkey. Okay, after eating coconut, after eating food, it would take all muck which is there out, you can see. And this article we published was some 6 years ago, and this became so popular that Science ran a story, and that was with a title. They wrote the whole story on this article with a title, "Monkeys may have better dental hygiene than you." And this was a whole story, cited for these monkeys. And the second species which we have been working on now is urban monkeys near Mysore. These are called the Boran macaques of South India. One of my students did this fantastic work. What I want to show you now, from now onwards, we have used materials which never costed more than 40 rupees. And these all articles have been published in very, quite respectable journals, all of them. You would see the kind of materials I have used in my experiments. And all kinds of journals we have published. We purchased for 40 rupees a mouse trap. So we selected 2 groups of monkeys, one which is close to people. It's fully dependent for human food. And one, we cannot offer food to forest monkeys. So as a proxy for the forest monkey, because wildlife areas, we are not supposed to feed animals, and for a proxy, we selected one remote area rural group, which had very little interaction with people. They won't go to the village, some small forest patch and agricultural lands. So this was a proxy for forest monkeys, but very little exposure to people. So we gave them this object, mouse trap. It's a bimanual task because it's spring. Okay, you have to remove lift the lid, hold the lid with one hand, and take the food out. And when we presented this to these 2 groups of monkeys, This is the way, see, you lift the lid, take the food out, and once we studied this, we saw a very significant difference between two groups of monkeys. The rural group, only about 30% were able to take the food out, but whereas the urban group, more than 60% were able to take this food out. And all of them, here some of them ignored, some attempted, but none ignored in urban monkeys. Everybody tried, everybody attempted, and more than 60% were able to get the food out of this. Next experiment, we thought of something even more unique, and that is presenting them with an object which is familiar to one group and not familiar to the other group. So what we did, we selected a Coke bottle. Okay, now the students did what? They drilled a hole in the Coke bottle, they drank the Coke and put a little bit of sweet lassi in it. Notice one thing here, the cap, the seal is intact. We didn't touch the seal at all. You know that we have to break the seal in a very, very specific manner. So the seal is intact, and this was presented to the monkeys, both urban monkeys and the forest monkeys. And look at this urban monkeys. You would see a fantastic behavior, how this monkey uses very neatly, uses canine, okay, to break the seal, the way we would do. Okay. Now the ring is, this lower ring is removed. Now, okay. Thank you, I have not trained them, they are doing it on their own. Okay. So now, this is how the urban monkeys are able to extract food. And once we studied this behavior, urban monkeys, all of them, no one ignored. Everybody attempted, everybody tried, and more than 60% of them were able to get the food out of this food bottle, this Coke bottle. Rural monkeys, half of them didn't even look at it. They simply ignored. Others just tried here and there. Some of them lifted it, tried to bite it here and there, tried to drill some holes. Not even one monkey was able to extract food. So look at the difference here. The skill which is developed by the urban monkeys, extraction of food from this complex situation where the forest monkeys or the rural monkeys simply failed to do it. Now we have done this, I can't go to the details for Nicobar monkeys also, latch opening. Now this is very quickly this video to get coconut. To learn, they simply learn to lift the latch and pick up the coconut. And the next experiment, next was even far more complex. The hole is hidden and there is a disc which the monkey has to rotate to align the two holes. Now the urban monkeys come there, after a few trials, the monkey just rotates this very neatly, aligns the two holes and takes the food out. Now these kind of complex behaviors, along with their own cognitive system, the monkeys develop in these urban areas. Now the last series of experiments I want to mention was we picked up another gradient. High degree of exposure means typical urban monkeys, medium degree of exposure, a semi-urban group, and then low degree of exposure to people or urban environment, agricultural group. Now we presented them again very costly material, and that is peanuts. Okay, so we selected 3 different states of the peanut. Peanut is native, shelled, and skinned, and 3 different chemical forms: raw, boiled, and roasted. So you have a perfect 3 by 3 factorial design for a field study. Okay, this is all done. Presenting these, now I can't go to all 9 of them, but I just want to show you some of these, that the urban monkeys were very quick to accept peanuts. Then semi-urban monkeys did a little longer, and the rural monkeys that took much longer to accept, first of all, peanut as food. But most important thing was that the food acquisition, all groups use their hands. They break coconuts, the peanuts, and they take the peanut out. Most important thing we observed was a shelled peanut. So we have one of the farms where the shell was removed, but the peanut was roasted. A roasted peanut is blackish, the skin is blackish. Even when we eat, we remove the skin because it is bitter. So the monkeys remove it in different ways. Some remove it, I'll show you this as movies. Some remove it with the mouth, some with hands and mouth, some with the hands. Here we saw the most important thing was the rural monkeys use only the mouth to remove the skin. Urban and semi-urban monkeys use both hand and mouth, but the use of hands was only by the urban monkeys. In 2022 only, we recently published this article, does urbanization accentuate hand use in macaques, in monkeys? So only the urban monkeys make use of hand. Now we saw this in other monkeys, we got some videos from the internet, with the help of some African and Japanese scientists. Now this is vervet monkeys of Africa. The same species in the forest, look here, the monkey uses the same fruit, goes directly with the mouth and takes the food out. Whereas the same species for the same fruits in urban areas, the monkey comes and breaks it with hand. Just like our bonnet monkeys in South India are using hand. Now these monkeys are using hand. And then we also got videos from a friend in Japan who is working on Japanese monkeys. Now this is a group of monkeys which comes from the hills. They do provisionization. They give some wheat grains here and some other different kinds of grains. Now these monkeys which come from the hill, from the forest, all these monkeys, whether young ones or adults, look, all of them, they're all putting their mouth for the grains and they pick up the grains from the ground. Whereas the monkeys which are living in urban areas, look how neatly they would pick up the same grains with hands. No, they just pick up even the young ones. These are Japanese snow monkeys. They make use of hand. This is just to show more the degree of urbanization, more is the use of hand, whether it's bonnet monkeys or it's vervet monkeys of Africa or it is Japanese snow monkeys. Now this last few slides I want to show you is the emergence of novel methods. I am hesitant to call it innovations because many people object to the word innovation, so I call it novel foraging methods, a very safe word. Now you look at this is very interesting. This is the same shelled roasted peanut. Okay, when it is presented to monkeys, one of the methods is that the monkey puts it in mouth and keeps on trying to remove the skin with the teeth. Look here, it's just rotating there. Okay, and spits out the skin. We find it a very inefficient and very time-consuming way of doing it. And then the second kind of behavior they show is using both hand and mouth. Okay, they take it with hand, sometimes hold it, and try to remove the skin. Okay, but suppose you have a peanut which is roasted. Okay, and I give it to Vinod Kumar when he has his glass of beer in the evening, and I give it to him. I tell him, अरे क्या करोगे भाई? कैसे निकालोगे? The skin to remove. What he would do is put here and just rub it. It is gone. It's a very efficient way of doing. And so does the monkey. Okay, we call it palm rub behavior. Okay, the monkey just puts it between two hands, rubs it in a second, the skin is gone. Okay, and then there was another monkey, even smarter. Why use two hands if you can use only one hand? Why make use of two hands? Just do it on ground and just lift it. And we named this behavior as rub ground. So these two behavior, these papers are published very recently, just a couple of months ago. This was published, one is published in Behavior in Netherlands, started by a Nobel laureate, and another is published in the American Journal of Biological Anthropology. We have very high commentaries written on these articles now, is that look at this now. All these behaviors, mouth, hand mouth, are used by rural and semi-urban monkeys, and palm rub and rub ground. These behaviors are very efficient, take very little amount of time, and are used only by the urban monkeys. Other monkeys simply do not develop this behavior. These are what I have called novel skills, emergence of novel skills, hesitating to call it innovations. So these are the techniques, and this is, we simply put not only the groups but individuals. You see, some simply ate this without removing skin. I'm just finished the last one. All these are rural and semi-urban monkeys. They either remove, without removing the skin they eat, or use mouth, or use hand and mouth, but the use of hands only and novel methods, that is rubbing between palms and rubbing on ground, is used only by the urban monkeys, except two monkeys, urban monkeys, our study monkeys, which have shown hand and mouth. Rest all urban monkeys are using this method by palm rub and rub ground. So, this is my last slide. I just sum up, in many primate species, intergroup or interhabitat, there are differences. The monkeys living in different habitats, they're different in their behavior patterns, and high exposure to urban environment and encased foods leads to emergence of novel food extraction and processing techniques with increased use of hand. There are between individual variations, some are more efficient than others, but there is a fantastic within individual consistency. Those who learn it to do it, they constantly do it. So as expected, individuals differ, but there is a within individual consistency. In a recently published international encyclopedia, there is an article written by Indians, our Sinha and Vijay Krishnan. They have discussed our research in detail, and in the end, they have concluded this, which I also normally do, that this is important, whether these behavioral adaptations are indeed products of inherent phenotypic plasticity that animals can do with the same given genotype, okay. Whether they are products of inherent phenotypic plasticity or of genetic adaptations, even in the short term, often remains unknown. I do not have answer to this question as yet. That's all I have to say. And as I said, my lab, this is a habit for all scientists to say my lab. My lab is 8 feet by 10 feet. I have nothing in my lab except my chair and table. My labs are there, 8,000 square kilometer national park, another 2,000 square kilometer wildlife sanctuary, and so on. My labs are thousands of square kilometers. So habit of saying my lab, we work not only on monkeys, we work on a large variety of animals, lot of work on elephants, bats and rodents and squirrels and apes and dogs and so on, all kinds of animals we study. And these are people who have done a lot of work for 40 years with me. Some of them have even retired, doing this work. I thank them all, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Mewa Singh.
I managed.
Some of them retired because you never retired. That's the reason everyone retired. And it's a wonderful presentation. Really, I enjoyed, and I understand the importance of such studies. And I am very sure that the audience must have enjoyed it. So you can ask questions. Yeah, please, Gopal.
Yeah, it's a very nice study, Dr. Mewa Singh. And my specific question to you, basically you have studied that urban versus rural monkeys, they are behavioral studies. So my question to you, two quick questions. Number one, in a collaborative mode, can you further extend your study at the cellular, at the molecular level? What is going on?
The last lines I put were the same. Whether these are, phenotypic plasticities or genetic work, sure, we would like to do it, but I have no, expertise to do it myself.
Yeah,
sure.
Beyond that, in the gene expression, differential expression of the genes, protein by genomics, proteomics, metabolomics-based approach. Second quick question. I know we all are using this, but in terms of after considering that institutional animal ethics approval, how easy or how difficult to use these urban versus rural monkeys for the testing of drugs and clinical trials, preclinical trials in higher animals, in the area of infectious disease or my area like oncology, cancer, etc.
You see, many people accused me because I have been the chairman of Animal Institutional Animal Ethics Committee for 16 years. And they said he got the permission for himself. But see, these studies have least interference. We have just maximum thing we have done is offered a little bit of food. And this is only to these monkeys which are exposed to food. That's why he said, for a proxy I used the rural monkeys because in wildlife areas we would not go and we would not offer food. I mean, we are not allowed to. I mean, it's not only illegal, it's unethical, and we are wildlife biologists. We ourselves say this. So it is, approval is given for all these experiments. Everywhere we have written license number, approval number. These are all approved, but this is a very little interference to do science. At least one that much is permitted. But beyond that, for example, I mean, where there is a lot more interference, we would not do, for example, giving, if this is uncomfortable for the animals in any possible way. Giving a shock or something. Now that would not be allowed by IAEC. But the clinical studies, you know, man, they have to, if it's up to rats, then it's a different process. IAEC can give, but if it is primates, then it has to go to CPCSEA. Approval has to come from CPCSEA.
So, Dr. Singh, it's a great presentation. I noticed that you call these urban monkeys commensal. Why do you call them commensal?
Very great question. Thank you very much. Because, see, the dictionary meaning of commensal you would see is there are two species interacting. One gets some benefit, the other one is not harmed. That is typical commensalism. Okay. See, parasitism, one gains at the cost of other. Commensalism is one gains without harming others. But by commensalism, I should have defined it, that the term commensalism I am using here only with the specific meaning that two species share habitat and to some extent food. They share habitat, like these monkeys I am talking about, they share their habitats with people, and to some extent they are also having the same food items. So that is the word commensalism. You are right. The typical dictionary meaning will be only that one species gains, the other species is not harmed. Unlike parasitism, where one gains and the other is harmed. Yeah. Or mutual cooperation where both gain.
Yeah, very good talk. Actually gives a lot of feeling to us that what other things can be done, what we have been doing in the lab. But my two curiosities there. One, that you started with the hypothesis of Professor S.D. Singh that behavior changes but intelligence doesn't change, if I am correct. Did I pick up the right thing? Now, after several years of your study, did you find this hypothesis stands? Number one. Number two, is there any study that if you pick up the forest monkey and put into the urban condition, how much time it takes to change the behavior?
My PhD student gave this viva last week. This was exactly the same question asked double way. If you put a urban monkey in the forest, what will happen? If you put a forest monkey in the urban area? No, they won't survive. It takes very, very long time. See, these are not the things which they would learn very quickly. These are adaptations. That's what we said, whether even genetic adaptations even in the short term. See, these things take a lot of time. The forest department, now they don't do, at least in the areas where I am influential, they used to catch these urban monkeys and leave them in the forest. I used to tell them, you might as well shoot them. They don't know what leopards are, what tigers are. Tigers don't hunt what leopards do. They don't know how to live in a forest environment. Same way, the forest monkeys won't know how to live in an urban environment. Look at an urban monkey. What kind of cognitive skills? Still, I won't call it intelligence. Cognitive skills. Some BD shop, okay. Now, this monkey very curiously sitting there, even this man's head turned this way, he makes a jump and picks up a banana and runs. A forest monkey would never have these kinds of, cognitive capacities or skills. So, the forest monkeys will not survive in these kinds of habitats. And urban monkeys, they survive, but the only thing they die there because of the predators and they don't know how to live. So, these things will take a lot of time, and one thing is that these behaviors are picked up by chance by some animals. And slowly, some monkeys, others would learn. There are typical examples of this study one study was published in 1952. This was called real innovation. The Japanese monkeys, these scientists were studying the monkeys, they used to come from hills and they would feed them. Because they would go back to the hills, and the hills were very steep. And it was difficult to climb, so they wanted more time. So they started feeding them. And they were giving them, I have time? Few minutes? So, okay. So they were giving them sweet potatoes. And they had mud. There was a young juvenile monkey called Emo. It's now called the Emo, the genius. She one day picked up, there was a sea close by, this was on the shore. She just sat there, picked up this, muddy sweet potato, goes there. Now you can see the monkeys doing something like this in the water to wash mud. But she just picked up the water with one hand, put it there and washed it. This was a stunning thing. And slowly some other young monkeys started picking up this behavior. After a few days, another thing these people would give, like I showed you, they give these wheat grains. And it's mixed in the sand. So monkeys spend a lot of time, picking up this food. So what this monkey, the same monkey, Emo, the juvenile monkey, she lump of sand, she just goes there and throws it in the water. Immediately, the grains are floating, she takes away everything. So we call it placer mining. Now this was another innovation. Slowly, some other young animals picked up this behavior. Then the mothers of some young animals picked up this behavior. As usual, adult males never learned anything. So this, yeah. The last question. So this is how these behaviors get culturally transmitted.
Sir,
yeah.
Did you come across any changes
in the behavior between males and females?
See, I didn't go to that much of details. There would be some differences. The females are slightly more innovative and develop behaviors than the males once again. I mean, I didn't want to go, especially at the juvenile level. Juvenile and subadult. Subadult, juvenile and females, they pick up a lot of these new behaviors than males. Nothing surprising anyway.
The second question is whether they train the younger ones in any way. Do the monkeys train the younger ones in any way?
Do they?
Train, they teach them.
This is fantastic question. There is no schooling in animal world. Okay, nobody trains any other animal. That's what I said. Even learning, social learning, by so-called imitation, etc., is very limited. Most of these behaviors are picked up by their own on trial and error basis, but some social stimulation, social learning takes place. But active training is absolutely not there, except in some birds of prey, where some of the eagles up to 6 to 7 years, they train their young ones, they make dives in the air, and the young ones also make dives in the air. Probably Jhala might tell that tiger females also do. The tiger females, they sometimes, they incapacitate the prey animal. They won't kill. But the young cubs, for example, they actually make the feeling that, maine mara hai. That the animal is already incapacitated by the mother. So there is some kind of, that kind of provision provided, but an active training of animals is. Yeah.
I was just wondering if there is any role of transferring this understanding from one generation to another?
By social learning. Without see, this is what I said. Whether this has acquired genetic basis, we don't know. This is what my last thing was. Whether there are genetic basis for this already. I mean, I have no idea. I mean, I can't tell this.
Because I was wondering about the epigenetic changes that could happen.
Phenotypic plasticity is possible. Yeah. Okay. I mean, there is either phenotypic plasticity or there is epigenetic or there are genetic changes. I go only to the extent of saying that I would still consider this as phenotypic plasticities.
So we give a big hand to Professor Mewa Singh.
Thank you very much.
For a wonderful talk, entertaining talk. And we invite Dr. Kutsia is here. Please. So she is also a very close and good friend, and we have known each other for a long time. So she works with the nematodes, and she is from Aligarh Muslim University, and she is a professor there. And I would like to invite her for her talk on nematodes, or nematode world. Thank you.
I find it difficult to keep you bound to the talk after such an excellent and interesting talk, but still I'll try.
आपके पास वीडियो है क्या?
No, I don't have.
हाँ, वही गलती किया ना सर ने. नारियल? वही गलती हो गई.
Is it okay? And how to switch it on?
It's on.
No, how to change?